Welcome back, YouTube pipe smokers. Mutton Chop Piper here. Well, today we're going to be talking about Churchwarden pipes. Now, this video is primarily for you new pipe smokers and intermediate pipe smokers, and for you potential pipe smokers. Before we get into looking at the pipes, I want to give you a little bit of information about what a churchwarden who a churchwarden is and what their job is when it comes to the church. They are a member of the church, and I've got some information here as to exactly what they do and what their responsibility is to the church. In cooperation with the priest in charge, or in cases of vacancy, the bishop, churchwardens are generally responsible for the day-to-day functioning of the parish. These responsibilities include various aspects of administration, plan operations, and personnel. Their work is not just the maintenance of the church building, but helping the smooth running of the church. In this capacity, wardens are considered the leading lay member of the congregation, and during the incumbency of a priest, may have varying duties and responsibilities according to the customs of the parish, the canons of the diocese to which the parish belongs, the desires of the priest, and the direction of the parish board and or the congregation as a whole. They're also in charge of, or they're responsible for the order and maintenance of the church building, reports, meetings and money, and lay support. So, that's what a churchwarden, that's what he does. That's what he or she does when it comes to the church and the congregation of a church and the parish that the church belongs. So now let's take a look at the churchwarden pipe. What makes a pipe a churchwarden? Well, a churchwarden pipe is typically a pipe that has a longer stem, like the one that I'm showing you now. This is a replica of the Lord of the Rings pipe, and churchwarden pipes came back into favor during the Lord of the Rings movies and the Hobbit movies, because Gandalf the Grey, if you've not read the book, then I highly recommend that you do. But he smoked a pipe similar to this, a long-stemmed pipe. Typically, a churchwarden has a very long stem, like the one I'm showing you. Now, there are many stories out there as to why a churchwarden has such a long stem. One of the stories is that it has a long stem in order to not impede the churchwarden's line of sight. Back in the 17th and 18th century, the churchwarden, another one of their jobs was security of the church building and grounds. So he would be sort of like a security guard walking around the church and the grounds to make sure that there was no funny business going on, no one attempting to rob the church. So they would be situated either in a perch somewhere, and they would be able to keep the pipe out of the way in order to have a good line of sight when it came to surveying the church grounds and the church. Another myth or another story is a churchwarden was made so that when you're smoking, you could have the bowl sitting on your chest, like so. It's a little difficult. I don't know if that's a true story or not. Another story is that a lot of people didn't like the smoke coming out of the bowl getting around their face. So by it being way out there, like so, as the smoke comes up, it's not getting anywhere near your face. It's just coming out and going away. So that was another myth about why churchwarden pipe stem is so long. One of my favorite stories, and I kind of wish this was true, but one of my favorite stories is that back in the 18th and 17th century, the churchwardens were locked into the church. So they would have to bring their food, a book to read, and their pipes to smoke. Now, it was frowned upon. I'm not quite sure if it was illegal, but it was very much frowned upon. It was just not something that you did. You didn't smoke in church. Just like coming into church and yelling or anything else that might be considered disrespectful to God or to the church. You just didn't do it. So if a churchwarden was locked in and his perch was up in a bell tower or something to survey, the grounds, and he'd walk around the church perimeter inside making sure that no funny business was going on, how is he supposed to smoke his pipe? He wanted to smoke his pipe. So one of the stories is an ingenious churchwarden came up with a solution. He made this long pipe so that he could open a window, stick the pipe out the window, and smoke his pipe. Technically, the pipe is not inside the church. It is outside. So he would light it outside. The window would be here, and he'd have the stem sticking out, or he'd have the pipe sticking out of the church window, and he would smoke and blow the smoke outside. I just think that's kind of a cool story about churchwardens. So there are several different stories as to why a churchwarden was made, and if you know for a fact, if you've got some facts to back it up, and you know exactly why a churchwarden was made or why it was created, then please leave a comment. I'm sure that everybody in the club would love to know why a churchwarden was made, and if you even know who invented it. All right, so if you're a new pipe smoker and or an intermediate pipe smoker, or even a potential pipe smoker, and you really love churchwardens, and you'd like to know, okay, what are a couple of examples of pipes that I could purchase that are churchwarden pipes? So I'm gonna give you a couple of recommendations about the type of churchwardens that I like. The first one I want to show you is it's a Savinelli product, which I'm partial to Savinelli's. But this is Savinelli quandale. Now it's not quite, I don't know if I would consider it quite a full churchwarden, but it's close enough. It has a long stem. Now the reason I'm recommending this is a couple of reasons. And the price on it, if I just went to smokingpipes.com, and the rusticated is $92 and the smooth is $116. Reason I like recommending this pipe is one, that it has the 6mm balsa wood filter system. Now, doesn't mean that you have to use a filter with this pipe, but you have that option later on down the road. Maybe you go to the doctor and the doctor says, well, the reason why you're having problems is because you're smoking your pipe. If there's a way you could put a filter in it, that would help you greatly. Well, now you don't have to go out and buy another pipe. You've got one. You start using the 6mm balsa filter with. Now, a couple other reasons I'm recommending this pipe is two reasons. One is it still has relatively thick walls. Okay. Also, I get a lot of comments saying, Mutton Chop, I just can't finish a full bowl of tobacco. I get about halfway and I just can't smoke anymore. Well, I like it because the bowl is very short. You don't have a tall bowl. Like this bowl is very tall. See how that is? It takes a lot to smoke that full bowl of tobacco. Where this one, it has a very short bowl. So it's easy to get that tobacco burnt very quickly. So you won't have a problem with getting about halfway and saying, I just can't do it anymore. That's the reason I recommend this one. Relatively thick bowls, thick wall bowl, short bowl, so where you can smoke the tobacco relatively quickly, and it incorporates a filter system. Now another one that I recommend is a corn cob. This is a Missouri meerschaum cobbit from their cobbit line. I think there's three. I think there's the dwarf, the Shire, and the elf. Now again, this one doesn't have a filter system, but it's relatively cheap. So if you like Churchwardens and you want to start smoking a pipe with a Churchwarden, this pipe from their cobbit line will range anywhere from $20 to $25. Again, it's got the thicker wall bowl, and it's short. The bowl is short, so you won't have too much problem burning through a bowl of tobacco with this pipe. So those are the two that I recommend. Also, one other thing that is one other function of a Churchwarden pipe is the fact that I personally don't know if it's true, but it is the prevailing reason to own one, is that it cools the smoke from the time it gets from the bowl up to your mouth, because of the length it has to travel in order to get to your mouth. Now me, using the breath method, I don't really have a problem with heat in the first place. So using the breath method, if it's already cool here, then by the time it reaches my mouth, it's going to be even cooler. So again, if you have a problem with your pipes heating up, you're haven't quite gotten down the breath method, and your pipe is still kind of heating up, then that might be something to look at to try to get the smoke to cool a little bit more before it reaches your mouth. All right, well, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something. Until my next video, I want to wish you and your family happy piping.